Welcome to an uncharacteristically high-resolution video. Um, at some point, I fell off of any idea of keeping up with currently airing anime and with uh, paying any attention to popular shows at all. And there are a couple of reasons for that. Um, to the point where, like, each season, I would pretty much scroll at least once to get past the barrier of whatever was the most like popular show or like popular 4 or 5 shows from that season in order to find the stuff that I would watch. Uh, and I would basically just dismiss it outright. And the question is, why did this happen? And is this legitimate or am I just being a contrarian? So, I think this happened probably sometime around 2019 when this sort of really kicked in for me. When I absolutely did not fuck with Vinland Saga. No, that's not it. No, wait, that's not right at all. It was Kaguya-sama. Was that 2019 or was that earlier? Yeah, when I absolutely did not fuck with Kaguya-sama. Everyone loved this Kaguya-sama Love is War show. I absolutely did not fuck with it. I could not stand it. Garbage show, in my opinion. Um, and there were plenty of other examples. In 2020, most popular shows. I'm just on AniList right now. Now, bear in mind, my anime list has different taste to AniList. AniList tends to be a little more refined. My anime list tends to be slightly less hardcore anime watchers. Um, but like, I didn't fuck with Shingeki no Kyojin. um, I know nothing really good came out in 2020 or 2021, to be honest. Like, most of the popular stuff from those years are just, like, not even good. I don't know what that's about. I didn't like All Summer Ranking, but that one wasn't, like, that popular, I feel like. Yeah, just the people who liked it really liked it. I didn't think Mushoku Tensei was, like, anything to write home about. I thought it was pretty, um, how do I put it, uninteresting, I guess, or, like, didn't really stand out at all to me. Um, but then recently, I feel like there's been more shows that have gained, especially with the modern prevalence where anime is just like super popular with everyone. There are shows which, like the most successful and popular shows of each year, are just huge, right? And they're unavoidable on the internet. Everyone's talking about them, and you know they were just not interesting to me. So, like for example, Bocce the Rock in 2022. I liked that show. That show is pretty good, but it's not crazy good. Like, is not like is not even the best show about cute girls starting a band, like at all. There's like at least one better one, arguably maybe 2 or 3 better ones if you count like depending on how you count starting a band or versus like being idols. It's good, but it's not K-On, right? Is what I'm saying, right? Like anyone who likes Bocce the Rock would like K-On more because K-On is better in every single way. Not that they're directly comparable necessarily, but it's like I like Bocce the Rock. It's a good show, but it didn't like capture me in the same way. I feel like a lot of people were very captured by that show. Spy Family does absolutely. I like that. Like I haven't watched Spy Family, right? I know I Spy Family very very popular when it came out when it first started airing, huge. I started to check it out. I didn't start to check it out, but I started to like look at like the trailers and the previews and stuff. It just looked like the most boring shit I've ever seen. I have like zero fucking interest in watching it. That's the sort of situation we're talking about, right? Like there's just stuff where I look at it, I'm just like, this looks so boring. It looks so fucking boring. Licorice Recoil, that show was pretty big. I think I dropped it out after the second episode. Uh, did nothing for me. Did absolutely nothing for me. Sono Biscuit, I didn't watch that. It looked like a pretty bad Like, look, there's lots of good fan service anime. This doesn't look like a good fan service anime. You know what I mean? Like, this kind of stuff just put me off. But then there's like, I don't want to be overly. I will come back and I will go through the popular shows that I like because there are plenty. In 2023 was where I really fucking fell off. Okay, so like you had Sousou no Frieren, right? And Kusuria no Hitorigoto, which were both very popular and very, very um, critically acclaimed, well regarded shows. I haven't watched either of them because of my habit of just scrolling past the most popular stuff because it's mostly bad. Oshinoko, I actually watched the first two episodes of, and I thought it was sucked. I didn't like it at all. I didn't like it. I didn't like Oshinoko. It did nothing for me. Um, like that show was fucking huge. I don't really understand why. Uh, there's all sorts of stuff. I watched Tengoku Daimakyo. I did it for actually a video, one of my laying around watchings, I think. And that show was pretty big in a niche. I thought it was good, but I didn't think it was like super memorable or super crazy or anything. I didn't watch Solo Leveling. I completely missed out on Solo Leveling. Completely ignored that one. Hibiki Euphonium Season 3 came out last year. I didn't watch it because I dropped Hibiki Euphonium in the middle of Season 2 because it was just way too anime melodrama, high school melodrama shit that I don't really like. You know what I mean? And like I haven't watched Dan Like if like me from a few years earlier, I would have eaten Dan up. I would have loved Dan. It's Science Saru. They never miss. At least according to me from some point in the past. But I've just completely skipped out on Dan. You know, there's a lot of shit like this where it's just like ReZero. I think it's not that strange for me to say that ReZero isn't that good, but ReZero isn't that good, so I didn't watch the new season. Uh, and then there's obviously gonna be stuff like Hero Aka season whatever the fuck season 7. Oh god, it's still going. It's like I don't give a fuck about Hero Aka. So my question, and then there's also a bunch of classic shows that I haven't seen. Right? Like I haven't seen Vinland Saga. I haven't seen One Piece. I haven't seen One Piece. I haven't seen Naruto. I haven't seen Dragon Ball. I haven't seen Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood. I don't know what else is like. Let me go sort by popular all time. No, popularity all time. I haven't seen Kimetsu no Yaiba. I haven't seen Jujutsu Kaisen. I haven't seen. I've seen One Punch Man. I've seen Tokyo Ghoul. I've seen Sword Art Online. I haven't seen Promised Neverland. I haven't seen Your Lie in April. I haven't seen Erased. I haven't seen. What the fuck is this show? I haven't seen Assassination Classroom. Like this. I haven't seen Haikyuu. I haven't seen Noragami. I haven't seen Toradora. I haven't seen Spy Family. I haven't seen Violet Evergarden. I haven't seen Vinland Saga. I already mentioned that one, I think. Uh, I haven't seen Bleach, although I've read a little bit of the manga. um, yeah, I haven't seen all of JoJo's. I've only seen like the first 3 seasons of JoJo's, which is like before it even gets good, according to most people. The thing is, they'll always just push it back. Whenever you watch JoJo's and you're like, that was okay. I mean, yeah, it had some fun moments. They'll be like, oh, no, no, no. The next part is where it gets really good. That's the thing about like all of these long running shonen things is no matter where you're at, they'll always say, "Oh no, 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 the next part is where it gets good." I don't understand that they only watched till the next part because they were already enjoying it. Like, oh man, I don't know. So I haven't seen Dororo. Like that show's supposed to be really good. I haven't seen it. Um, so you know what I'm saying here? You know what I'm getting at? There's just a lot of shit that I haven't seen, and these are like the popular stuff that I haven't seen. And like, yeah, also there's a lot of obscure stuff that I haven't seen, and that's the stuff that I tend to gravitate towards, right? Like, I'm like, okay, I'm much more interested in. So let's take Frieren, for example. Frieren is almost certainly good, right? And here's why I know that Frieren is definitely good. Frieren is like the highest rated anime of all time on AniList and on Mal. Now, I thought this is just like rating inflation because it was recently aired. But like the same thing happened with Oshinoko, where it was like really, really highly rated and then kind of back down. And the same thing happened with Your Name, was like the number one rated show, or but even this movie, the number one rated movie on Mal, and then it like dropped back down. It's like normally when something just comes out, a bunch of people rate it a 10, and then after the hype dies down, people come back to it and are like, okay, let's give it a reasonable rating, and the rating like slowly deflates. But Frieren has stayed at the top for like a while now, so that's the one thing that makes me think it's good. The second thing that makes me think it's good is that Dotsmite really likes Frieren, the manga, and Dotsmite generally has pretty good taste. And then the third thing that makes me think it's good is the compounding elements of all of these things with the fact that, as far as I know, having not done much research about the show, it's not like a shonen, big action, big drama, big over the. It's like a more slow paced slice of lifey type of situation, I think. And so, for like even the most giga normies to rate it highly, which is what you need to get to the top of all time, it must be really, really good, right? But then, on the other hand, what that means is I actually think, well, in that case, it's not that Frieren is good. It's just that the most people can't, like, it, because to get the highest average rating, it just means, it doesn't just mean that the most people have to rate it highly. It means also that the least people have to rate it badly, you know? And so what that tells me about Frieren is it's probably the least offensive anime ever made. Like it's something that almost no one can you know what I mean? It doesn't necessarily tell me it's the best show ever, but it definitely tells me it's the least bad show ever. According like and that's kind of puts me off because I am more interested in watching, I don't know, some harem show from the 2000s. Like, I don't know, what's something I haven't seen? Onegai Teacher, for example. Like, I'm more interested in watching Onegai Teacher because I'm pretty sure that that show is going to be really bad. Like, I think it's probably going to be, it's a harem show from the early 2000s. It's going to be really badly paced. It's going to have some kind of iffy animation and art. The characters are going to be very cliche. The comedy is probably not going to be very good. It's probably going to have like a bunch of really dumb fan service scenes that don't really add anything to the overall plot and just like aren't that good to begin with. Like that's what Oregai Teacher is probably going to be. But like there's an off chance that it's really good. Like there's an off chance that there's cool shit about it. Like a diamond in the rough. Like watching that's what I like about watching anime is digging through these websites, finding shit that I've never heard of before, and then like watching it and finding out like is there actually anything of merit here that no one else has spotted? Which is and there's so many times where I've found something that like almost no one cares about, and it's turned out to be something incredible, like Tamayura, for example, or Mahoraba. Those are two I've talked about on this channel. But there's a bunch of other ones which are just like maybe they're not notable enough that I would talk about them regularly. But there's a bunch of shows that I've watched where you know you go in and you're rolling the dice, and oftentimes the dice comes up and it's a garbage show. But what's more interesting is we're way beyond good and bad quality in my head, right? Like I don't really care if the show is good. I'm more interested in if the show is interesting. And I guess what I'm trying to say is uh, a show being just good, like I expect Frieren to be, where it's just like blanket complete. Like I don't expect Frieren to be mind blowing. Maybe it is. I don't know. But like in terms of a show like a TV anime with artistic merit, let's say, I'm presuming that you're not going to get better than like Evangelion or like Fooly Cooly or like the 90s Gainax stuff. Like you're just not going to beat that. Um, so like I doubt personally, I might be wrong, but I doubt it's going to have like a high degree of that sort of artistic merit because if it was taking artistic risks like that, it couldn't possibly be the highest rated show of all time because people would be alienated by it and give it low ratings. So, like, I know that Frieren is going to be more like a Mr. Beast video, where it's built in such a way that it's just like acceptable to the highest number of people, rather than like really good to a niche audience. Um, you know, like there are shows like, for example, Sister Princess, right, from 2001, which like no one's heard of Sister Princess, but it's fascinating to me because it's like the show is not good, right? Like the show is genuinely bad, but as a piece of anime history, it's fascinating because it was like really big for about 2 years in Japan and then seems to have completely vanished from everyone's consciousness. No one remembers it, no one knows it exists. It was like a big multimedia project. It had a visual novel, had a light. It was originally a light novel. It's like an early light novel adaptation. So it had like a light novel, a visual novel, and two 26 season episode animes. And it's like very, very early moe, like predating most of the moe shows you probably think of when you think of moe shows. Um, so it's like that's kind of fascinating to me, right? Even if the show itself is not actually good, which it kind of isn't. Like I've already watched, I think for 4 or 5 episodes of it, and it's not very good. But it's a fascinating look into the otaku culture of the 2000s, and then supplement that with the fact that I, after doing more research on it, ended up stumbling across some old videos on YouTube of a doujin circle from 2003 who were centered around um, Sister Princess, or Sispuri for short. And they made a bunch of videos just sort of hanging out, like vlogging together, just talking about the show and going to Comiket to sell their doujins and stuff. Like that shit, and just seeing that, like that's just an interesting historical document. That's so much more interesting to me than what I perceive my stereotyped brain when I see, okay, most highly rated show of all time on every single website that everyone loves. I'm like, okay, well, I know for a fact that I'm just gonna watch it and it's gonna be good. Like there's nothing else to it. As the same with it's the same reason I haven't watched Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood, because I know for a fact I'm gonna watch it and it's gonna be good and there's not gonna be anything else to it. It's gonna be a good show, and there's not gonna be some depth there where there's some more research and it's gonna have some more deeply inform me about the history of the medium and the culture and whatever. It's just going to be a good show that I come away from when I'm like, yeah, that was like a strong 8 out of 10. Yeah, I like that, you know. So this is a reason why I often avoid the highly rated or popular shows. Now, all of that being said, it's not like I actually completely avoid these things. Sure, I've been let down a bunch of times by whatever is most popular from whatever season. But there's also a bunch of shows which are in the top 100 all time on Mal and on AniList, which are basically the same list of shows but in a different order. um, that I fucking love. For example, No Game No Life, Steins Gate. Those are both two of my favorite shows, and they're very, very popular. I really like Doctor Stone. I really like Konosuba. You know, I really like Hunter x Hunter 2011. I really like Evangelion. I like pretty much all of the Ghibli movies. You know, I like Kill la Kill. I like what the fuck's that show called? Gurren Lagann. I like Made in Abyss. What else have we got? Uh, I like Hyoka. Hyoka's good. I like Chunibyo. I like Psyche K. I like the whole Monogatari series, which is obviously very popular and very well liked. I like Maid Dragon. Um, I like Madoka Magica, although I hate the third movie. Um, I liked the Komi-san manga. I thought the anime kind of ruined it though. Um, yeah, I mean, there's a bunch of stuff here in the top 100 that I fuck with. Uh, this is by popularity, by average score. I mean, yeah, it's the same story pretty much. There's a bunch of really popular stuff that I like. It's not like I'm just a contrarian who dislikes stuff that's popular, or or is it? Or is it like that? That's what we're going to find out. That's what we're going to find out today. Because I was just sort of paging through AniList as I do, just sort of wandering around looking for a show to watch. And I had just watched recently a bunch of shows that were in the magical school genre. So I had just watched Seirei Gensoki, and then another one called Seirei Gensoki is a isekai, and then I had watched Seirei Tsukai something 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 spirit something. I don't know what it was called, but uh, I watched that, and then I had rewatched um, Chivalry of a Failed Knight, and I don't know what I was doing, but I was just flicking through like recommendations based on some of these shows, and I stumbled across this show called Charlotte, and I had never heard of Charlotte before. I've never seen this. I don't know. I don't know how. Like, I legitimately don't know how this had completely slipped under my radar. I've never had an experience like this before. But I saw this show Charlotte, and I have never seen it. I've never heard of it, and none of the characters look familiar to me. It was completely new on my radar, and I was like, "Huh, this looks kind of neat." So I started watching it, and then about 5 minutes into the first episode, I start thinking, or maybe less, about like a few minutes into the first episode, I start thinking to myself, this feels very visual novel style to me. This must be a visual novel adaptation. But I'm just like, okay, I guess I'll just keep watching. So I keep watching, and then in the first episode, they go to a cafe, and the cafe, there's a sign outside the cafe where it's called Key Cafe, and the key on the cafe's sign is the logo for the visual novel studio Key. And I'm like, aha, it must be a Key adaptation. But like, I feel like I know all the Key visual novels, and I don't remember there being one called Charlotte. So I go on the AniList page, and I see that the show was written by Jun Maeda, who writes all of Key's visual novels. So there you go. That just goes to show that my skills in figuring out the vibe of anime are still very, very good, because I could immediately detect his writing style, uh, having read some other stuff by Jun Maeda in visual novel form. Um, but I just watched Charlotte today, and I just watched the whole thing, and I thought it was great. I thought it was really good. Not like life-changingly good. I'll probably forget about it at some point, but like I gave it an 8 out of 10. I thought it was pretty good. I thought it was great. Yeah. Um, and then so I'm like, how come like this isn't popular? It's like a key adaptation. It's well animated. It seems like fairly high budget, high production value, I guess. Um, you know, like how come I've never seen people talking about this? So I go and I check, and it's actually really popular. Like, it's in the top 100 most popular anime of all time. And I'm like, how the fuck have I not heard of this before? How has this somehow slipped through my radar? I don't understand. I don't know. I literally don't know. I don't have an answer for you. I just somehow, I just never saw it. I don't fucking know. It beats me. I've definitely looked through all of the 2015 shows on my anime list or whatever the fuck before. I've definitely looked through them. I don't know how I haven't noticed this show before. I thought the show had problems. Don't get me wrong. It's not a 10 out of 10 or anything, but like, I would have liked to have seen this sooner, frankly. And so realizing that actually this show is really popular, um, has made me rethink some things. Because maybe I've been unduly dismissive. Maybe I've been unduly dismissive uh, of popular anime. Maybe it's possible that shows with a broad appeal can actually appeal to me, um, and be enjoyable to watch. So, where do we start? I've been yapping for 24 minutes. There's only one place we really obviously can start, and that's with the most highly rated anime of all time, Frieren. So, I'm going to watch Frieren probably today and maybe spill over into tomorrow. And I'll let you know if I was right or if I was wrong. And then I'm going to try and revisit some of the other shows that I haven't seen. Maybe I'll try and give Spy Family another try. Maybe I'll try and watch um, Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood. You know, some of these shows that I've been putting off because I'm like, I just know that my reaction to watching it is going to be, yeah, that was good, which is boring to me. It's boring to go into a show knowing exactly how I'm going to come out of it, you know? Um, but hey, we're going to watch Frieren. I have a prediction that I'm not going to like it as much as everyone else likes it. But hey, maybe it's good. Maybe I'll be pleasantly surprised. I am on episode 16 out of, I believe, 27, 28 episodes of Frieren. So I'm not done. I'm more than halfway, and I will probably not finish it today. I will definitely finish it tomorrow, so you'll have to wait a little bit longer for my final thoughts on the show. But there were a few things from specific episodes I just want to get on camera because I'm worried that I'll forget about it by tomorrow. And I'm going to say some examples, and if you've seen the show, they'll make sense to you. If you haven't seen the show, I'm hoping you'll stick with me because they're building to a bigger point, which I will explain. So, I would say at first, I was sitting there watching Frieren and trying to come up with what I would say in my review of the series or whatever, and I ended up just on narrowing it down to just two words, which was cloyingly sentimental. Now, to be fair, that was just at first. The early parts of the show are cloyingly sentimental, and that's a vibe that hangs over the rest of the show, but it's at its peak early on. And while I wouldn't say that even that early section of the show is actually like actively bad, um, the show really hits its stride around sort of episode 8 or so. Um, but there's a lot of sort of overdrawn sentimentality, saccharine, um, sort of soppy almost aspects of the show that I just could not find myself vibing with at all. To the point where I would consider maybe even borderline manipulative feeling, especially a lot of the musical choices feel um, borderline manipulative in the sense of like big emotional moment equals big orchestral swell type of shit, and it's kind of too obvious, too cheesy, too easy, too much of an easy shortcut to pull in the heartstrings of people and getting the weak to cry. So that was some stuff that I thought kind of sucked. But I'm now going to talk about two specific moments in specific episodes. So the first one, um, so there's a part where they're sort of going against some demons, some big bad demon guys, right? And they make a point to make sure that you know this one fact about demons, which is that although they can talk like people, they aren't people. They don't have culture. They have language, but they only speak in order to manipulate humans because they want to eat them and absorb their power or whatever. They don't actually have, uh, you know, capacity for thought. Really, they just have developed you know, and in particular, they don't have families, but they'll lie about having families in order to manipulate humans. So they do this. They say it out loud, and then they have a flashback of Frieren fighting a demon child at some point, and then the child is like, "No, mama, mama," and then the hero is like, "I can't kill her because she's calling for her mama." And then lo and behold, a little bit later, that demon child turns out to have just been lying to not die and like kill someone, and then the hero has to kill the child, the demon child, and then they're like, why? And then and then once again, as the hero's about to kill her, she's like, "Mama, mama," right? And then Freeman's like, "Why are you calling? Why are you doing that?" And then she's like, "Well, it worked, didn't it? It's just gets humans not to kill me. I don't even really know what it means, right?" Um, and then once again, they talk about it, and they talk about how demons don't even have a concept of a family, and that like in their in like demons are just monsters like any other monsters, and they live solitary lives, and they don't raise their young, right? They just let them off into the world. They only take on human form to manipulate humans. They only speak human language to manipulate humans, right? If anything in the entire show has been set up and established in such a way that the audience understands it, it's this fact that that demons don't have parents. They don't have familial relationships in the same way that humans do. They don't have a concept of parenthood, and they always lie. They'll lie and manipulate no matter what, just to get humans to do their will. It's the one thing that is most set up in the episode. It has like a like I would say at least a good 10 minutes of the episode are basically dedicated to setting this up, and then a demon lies about his father dying in a battle, right? And the sort of earl of the court, the earl of the little city falls for it, right? And you're like, okay, set up, payoff, all makes sense. But then after that happens, they have a little cutaway. They have a little very short scene after that happens where the demon's like henchman turns to him and says, hey, what is a father anyway? And he's like, I have no idea, right? That pissed me off because first of all, it doesn't make sense for the demons not to know what a father is. They know about human culture because they bring up other specific elements of human culture. There's like very specifics. There's no way they wouldn't know what a father is. But worse than that, because that's more like a plot hole, which is like fine, whatever. If it works emotionally, it doesn't matter if it's a plot hole. But the reason it doesn't work is that it takes all of the onus off of the audience, right? It takes all of the you're no longer sitting there like, I paid attention to what the show was telling me, and now I have been rewarded for paying attention with this plot beat that is saying like, hey, you know that thing we set up? Here's the payoff for it. Instead, they take all of the momentum out of the show to fill in the really stupid audience members or the audience members who were on their phone and weren't paying attention on like, hey, by the way, just to be super, super clear, that guy was lying. Demons don't have familial relations like that and don't care about their parents and whatever. Um, you know, it was so that was like a moment. It's a very small moment. It's literally like a throwaway 2 sentences, 2 lines, like hey, what is a father anyway? Like I don't know. 2 lines. But that tells me so much about the writing of this show, where it's like it's the sort of thing that they do in bad superhero movies. It reminds me of the Suicide Squad. I haven't seen Suicide Squad, but I've seen the Folding Ideas video, The Art of Editing in Suicide Squad. And there's a moment in Suicide Squad, so just the big bad of Suicide Squad is a witch, and her weakness is her heart. And that this is like set up so much throughout the movie. It's the one thing that is well established throughout the movie. Her design has her with a big glowing heart that you can see translucent through her body. They keep bringing it up. They set it up so many times throughout the movie. And then during the big final fight, the guy takes his heart out. And it's like, okay, the thing that's been set up for the whole movie is that you can defeat the witch once you take her heart out, right? And so during the big final fight, the guy takes her heart out, and then all of the momentum in the scene stops while one character turns to another character and says, her heart's out, we can end this. It's like, that you don't need that because you've already spent the whole movie setting it up. The only reason you have that is because you think your audience is so stupid that they can't follow one basic plot thread. I hate it. I hate that sort of hand-holding shit, and Frieren does it really badly in that particular moment of that particular episode. I think most people would just pass it over, but for me, it stuck in my head because it told me, this is the type of writing that we're doing. We're doing writing where you assume the audience is as stupid as possible. I hate that. I hate it when they assume I'm stupid. I'm not the smartest guy, but I can follow a plot thread that you spent half your episode setting up. And it's not just that scene that's like this. The whole show just has this sort of lowest common denominator type stuff. That's just the best example. Is that particular scene exemplifies this attitude to writing, where it's like you have to make sure that even the stupid audience members can understand what's happening, even if it means sacrificing pacing, even if it means sacrificing structure, even if it means making characters say stuff that they don't have any reason to say, because you have to make sure absolutely everyone in the audience can follow what's going on. I hate that. Okay, so that's the first example. The second example is this. So there's in another example of a setup and payoff. There's a setup, and then later in another episode of payoff of this like it's a pretty minor moment in the show. A potion that dissolves clothes. When you pour it on clothes, dissolves clothes, but it doesn't dissolve skin. And it's basically a little gag in the show where it's the male character's birthday, and Frieren's like, "What should I get for him as a present?" I know guys love this kind of thing, holding up the potion that dissolves clothes, right? I'm gonna give him the potion that dissolves clothes. Guys love this kind of thing, you know. To which the other female character grabs the potion and is like, "Nope, you're not doing that," and then pours it all over Frieren, proceeding to dissolve her clothes. Now, what the camera does then is it goes behind her. It does this. It does this exact shot. It does an over the shoulder shot, right, where it's like behind her, and you just see like the top of her shoulders and the back of her head, and then loads of like steam and smoke from the this clothes dissolving, just to make absolutely sure that you can't see even a hint of Freyden being actually naked at all. Never, right? Um, Now, why bring this up? Well, because this gag of like we're gonna make a lewd joke about how like a clothes dissolving potion. It's like yeah we're gonna do the ecchi anime joke, but we're not but we're too high class to do any fan service. Like I don't care. In fact, fan service wouldn't fit in this show. It would be bad. It would be out of place. I don't want to see Frida naked. I have no point am I interested in that. But it looks it. I in that scene, I felt the writer or the director or whatever turning to the camera and being like, "You see, we're gonna do the anime joke, but we're not gonna do the anime fan service." In other words, we're too high class. We're gonna take the anime stuff, but we're too high class to do the pervert shit. That's for the low class anime. We don't do the pervert shit here. We can take the jokes from the pervert shit. We can take the themes from the pervert shit, but we're not gonna put the pervert shit. We're not gonna give them anything because we're too high class for that, right? And that's fine. What that made me think about is like, what is Frieren? Some people have taken to calling sort of A24 movies elevated horror, right? Which is silly because horror was already elevated, right? Frieren is elevated isekai. Now, obviously, it's not technically an isekai because no one gets transported to another world. They're just in another world. Whether you want to classify that as isekai or native isekai, which is a very funny term, that's up to you. But Frieren very much wants to have its cake and eat it too. It wants to take the thematic beats of mostly Dragon Quest inspired type shit, and isekai. Frieren is far from the first anime about what happens to the world after the hero's party has defeated the demon lord. There's lots of different anime about that. There's lots of different light novels about that. There's lots of different manga about that. This is already Frieren didn't invent this concept, right? Sure, there's unique stuff about Frieren which I like, but I'm being very harsh on the show right now because I want to like counter signal to the fact that this is the most popular show of all time and the most like the highest rated show of all time. Like you don't need me to gas it up. You already know that it's gassed up, right? And in my final review, I'll tell you my thoughts on all the positives and stuff. Like when I actually finish the show. Um, but I feel like Frieren is succeeding in embodying elevated isekai as a concept. Like we're doing isekai, but it's more high class. We don't have all the. And it's basically we take isekai and we strip out all of the dumb anime bullshit. And to be honest, it's kind of nice. It's kind of nice to watch a show and be like, okay, we can have that gag without the embarrassing moment where my friend walks in and then he sees me watching an anime with and then the girl's naked, right? Like without the like I'm not interested. Like the fan service scenes in whatever show, the generic version of Freiden, right? The version of Freiden that's just a trashy seasonal isekai, where the girl gets the clothes dissolving thing on her, and then you see a fan service shot where she's looking up, and she's on the floor, she's doing this, and she's looking up and blushing and going like, yeah. Like, I don't need to see that. Like, that doesn't, you know what I mean? Like, I don't need to see that every time. I've seen that already. I've seen it a million times. It doesn't really interest me that much. Like, I'm fine with watching this show. I kind of like it. I kind of like the isekai without the anime bullshit. I'm down to watch anime without the anime bullshit. But I don't like. But I wouldn't want anime without the anime bullshit. If you know what I mean. Like, I wouldn't want this to be every show. It's nice to have one show like this. It's nice to have one show like this. It would fucking suck if every show was like this, because all of that terrible, cliche, perverted, boring, tropey stuff is what I love about the medium. That all of that stuff is comforting to me, and it's reassuring to me, and it lets me read between tropes and inspirations, and it's like hallmarks of the genre, and it's what makes anime, right? Um, and so it's nice to have a show that doesn't feel the need to do any of that, and it's kind of cool to have a break from it. But I don't like what it represents, even though I think it's actually fun, nice to watch. I don't like what it represents of a like. We're gonna strip all of the bad stuff out of anime and make a prestige version. We're gonna make an elevated version, and it's like, if you can't hack that shit, if you can't handle me at my worst, you don't deserve me at my best. Like, if you can't handle hold on, I'm gonna go look up the name of a show real quick. Okay, after some searching I found it. It's called Yusha ni Narenakata. The fuck, my Japanese skills. Yusha ni Narenakata Ore wa Shibushibu Shushoku wo ketsui shimashita. I couldn't become a hero, so I reluctantly decided to get a job. Okay, so why am I bringing this random anime that has an average score of 6.80 on my anime list, which I gave a 6 out of 10 in 2013, up in the discussion of Frieren? Because this is another show that is also about the isekai world post Demon Lord has been killed and how people deal with that, you know? Uh, except this one is a pretty garbage, um, although surprisingly entertaining, fan service based harem anime where the main character works in a supermarket pretty much the whole time. Um, and there are some fights and some wacky hijinks that happens. But it's got a lot of fan service. It's got a lot of the generic harem stuff that you would expect. It still manages to put a bunch of isekai tropes together, despite having nothing really resembling an isekai type plot. But just like Frieren, it's set in a world that is already mostly recovered from the demon lord being defeated. Um, by a super powerful guy as the main character, but who's in like a strangely ordinary circumstance. And you know that kind of thing. Basically, if you can't handle me at my Sibu, then you don't deserve me at my Sosono Freiden. That's my opinion. You should watch. No, you shouldn't watch it. It's not like very good, to be honest. I wouldn't really recommend it. But like, do you guys understand what I'm saying? All of the motherfuckers who get Frieren, they didn't earn it by watching this garbage. I earned it. Like, I earned a break from the anime bullshit. These motherfuckers have never seen the anime bullshit and they couldn't hack it if they did. Do you know what I mean? The only saving grace is that I know for a fact that making only Friedens is financially unsustainable for anime studios, and so we're gonna get a bunch more trashy harem fan service shows, which is exactly what I want. Um, so yeah, that's pretty much where I'm at right now. But I do have plenty of praise for the show that I will be happy to dish out. Um, in well, by the time I finish it, which will be now. So I just finished Frieden, and I have a lot of thoughts. I have a lot of thoughts. Um, I don't really know where to start. I'm probably gonna ramble for a long time. Um, so I hope you're ready for that. Um, I feel like it's hard to talk about Frieren without taking into account that it's the highest rated anime of all time on every platform, right? And in particular, without talking about rating systems, we're talking about it in terms of rating systems, because that's how I was introduced to the show, kind of. I mean, I remember when it was airing, people talking about it and saying it was good, but people do that with shows every season, right? Like, there are lots of shows every season. I mean, even in the same season that Frieren aired, I think was the same season that Tengoku Daimakyo aired, and people were also talking about that in similar terms. I don't remember anyone really hyping it up and saying Frieren is the best show ever made. I don't even know of many people who would actively say that Frieren is the best anime. It's strange to me that it has the highest rating because it's a great show, but it's not the best show. It's not even close to being the best show. Um, I would say I'm gonna I'm gonna talk about it in terms of comparisons. I'm gonna try and talk about it in terms of rating systems as well. I know this might it might be kind of an awkward way of judging the quality of an artistic work. That's just how I'm gonna do it. It's just how my brain is defaulting to doing it. Kind of an autistic otaku database type of situation. So if I had to rank Frieren in terms of quality, I would say it is about on the level of one of the earlier arcs of Hunter x Hunter, but not on the level of like the Chimera Ant arc. So like maybe the Greed Island arc of Hunter x Hunter. Like it's about on that level, um, which is good. It's like a solid 8 out of 10. It's a really strong 8 out of 10, but it's not like a 9, and it's definitely not a 10 out of 10. You know what I mean? Like that's I'm happy I watched it. I feel glad that I watched it, and I would look forward to the later seasons when they come out. But I don't really understand the hype. I don't understand why it's so. It seems strange to me, right? It was good. It was even great, but it wasn't incredible. I'd say when it comes to anime, there are sorts of levels. There are levels to the shit. There are levels of positive ratings. It gives us a good opportunity to talk about that. Like, like a 6 out of 10 is a show that's good. It's a show that's good. It's a show that it's a positive rating. It's a show that you enjoyed watching. But that's it, and nothing more. Um, like a 7 is a show that's genuinely solid. Like not just that you don't necessarily regret watching it, but that you got something out of it. An 8 is a show that is on top of just being good to watch, also like actually well made. Like not just something where you didn't regret watching it or you enjoyed watching it, but something that you uh felt that there was some craft on display. I don't know. It's hard to explain rating systems like this. But what I'm saying is, for it to reach above that level, it needs to not only be like technically well put together and interesting, it also needs to have that next step of like artistic expression. It needs to have something to say. It needs to have something unique about it. It needs to make bold choices. It needs to feel like the person who made it needed to make it. It needs to say something. It needs to, you know, and then for something to be a 10 for me, it needs to have all of that plus like something very personal to me, something that hits me personally on a deeper level. Um, and so while Frieden is great, it doesn't have that level of bold artistic intent behind it. It doesn't have, there's themes to the show, right? Like it has themes about sort of fairly typical shonen themes about friendship and battles and that sort of thing. Um, but it also has atypical shonen themes, almost like wabi sabi almost type of themes, almost like um, you know, whatever the fuck the Japanese term is. What is it? Mono no aware, right? Like the transience of all things kind of situation where Frieren is so old and so long lived that um, appreciating things for their temporariness, it does have that kind of theme, but that's kind of all it has. Also, a lot of Japanese media has that theme. Um, I would say you can divide Frieren into three. I don't know if I want to call them arcs, maybe sections, and I think they improve in quality as they go along. So, like, the first part of the show, the first sort of 8 episodes or so, I think is pretty weak, honestly. It's not bad, but it's very, very overly sentimental, sappy, lots of really cheesy musical stings and musical choices. Um, uh, it feels a lot like a poor imitation of like Mushishi, for example, right? It's like going for this sort of peaceful vibe, traveling vibe, countryside vibe, magical realism type of, not magical realism, but like a fantasy fairy tale kind of vibe, but like still somehow grounded, so somewhat similar to Mushishi or something like that. And it's not as good as Mushishi at any point. Um, but that section is also not as good as Mushishi. It doesn't have the it doesn't have the balls. It doesn't have the cajones to make any sort of bold choices. And on top of it, it's an extremely nostalgic anime, and not in a sense that like watching it fills me with a sense of nostalgia for a type of anime in the past. I mean, like the show is practically all it's like half flashbacks. Like there's so many. It's a lot about Frieren reminiscing and also other characters reminiscing. It's and I don't know. That's interesting, I suppose, but it's not. I don't. I kind of it gets a bit grating, especially because they don't. It doesn't slow down. They keep doing it. They keep doing the reminiscing forever. It's just constant flashbacks, and that can get a bit grating for me. Um, so there's that first section, which I think is the weakest, and then the show really gets going, and it becomes more of a almost like a monster of the week. It's not actually monsters of the week, but I've never played the Witcher games, but it's what I imagine the Witcher games are like. Like, show up to a place, solve some magic problem, maybe do a fight. A lot of it is kind of Frieden doing chores, and that's quite entertaining. I liked that section of the show. Again, that's more like a slightly better imitation of Mushishi. I don't want to call it an imitation because it's also not that similar in a lot of ways. It's also quite different from Mushishi. That's just the reference point that I have. Um, It's a little bit like that. A little bit of a Yashike type of vibe. A little bit, but not like full blown. Like Mushishi goes full into the Yashike laid back aspect. Freiden does have that, but it also has a much more of a shonen underpinning, a shonen um, sort of how do I call it? Like a root, like a genealogy. Um, And then you get to the final arc, which is the sort of tournament arc or the exam arc, and that's like full shonen. That would like maybe like seinen, like shonen seinen type of Hunter x Hunter, Togashi type situation. Um, and I love Hunter x Hunter. Hunter x Hunter is the only like big shonen series that I like, really. Um, and if you like Hunter x Hunter, you will probably also like Frieren. But also Hunter x Hunter is significantly better than Frieren in pretty much every aspect, uh, especially when that show peaks. So it's like, you know, there's some really good stuff. There's some really solid stuff. There is some really great stuff. I think that there are some points in the show where the vibes are immaculate. I think Frieren has really, really strong characterization. That's the strongest aspect of the show. Great characters who are consistently written, have well rounded, fleshed out personalities and desires and goals and problems and internal struggles, and you know, interact with each other in interesting ways and have great chemistry. Um, Even characters that only show up, for a few episodes, like even minor characters, are extremely well rounded. Um, and yeah, that's great. That's definitely the show's strong suit is characterization. I also think the world has the show has great world building. It's got a good mixture of the sort of familiar fantasy tropes with an original shonen-esque magic system that feels a little more um, unique. And so you have the sort of familiar basics mixed with a sort of more original, or sort of used as a scaffolding for a more original and creative um, expression of those, how magic works in this world. And I think that's also really well done. Um, the world in general is just definitely very well fleshed out and interesting. And it's fun to spend time in. It's a sort of world that's fun to spend time in, which is not so easy to do. Um, but on the scale of like creative world building, I don't think that pretty much fantasy anime is the peak of creative world building in all of human literature, right? Like in my opinion, and so like that's even just that is not enough to push it over the edge. Like because it's not willing to take the big risks. Like if you take a show with incredible and batshit insanely creative world building, for example, let's just go with the absolute peak, Horizon in the Middle of Nowhere, which has the most original, creative, complex, deep, intertwined world building I've ever seen. Like that show only has that by virtue of being willing to alienate pretty much everyone who isn't willing to like actually read the light novels to understand what the fuck is going on in the show and read through a wiki, right? Like it's bold enough and to have like a world that is almost as complex as the real world, or if not more so, like a world that is borderline convoluted because it's willing to say like, okay, this is going to alienate a lot of people, but if you can be bothered to read the wiki, everything's going to make sense to you, and you're going to be like, damn, that's actually fucking genius. Um, like Frieren doesn't have that level of commitment to the bit. Uh, it's basically I would say it's a show. Another thing I didn't like, something I've got to comment on, is the music throughout the show definitely takes away from it. I did not like any of the openings or endings. I thought they were all really cheesy and really bad. Um, there are sort of three forms of BGM. You've got the sort of ambient music that plays occasionally. That's pretty generic. You've got a more folk music inspired type of thing with I think I heard some hurdy-gurdy in there, a lot of flutes. That fits the vibe. Like that's what the entire soundtrack should have been. But then you get these extremely cheesy, borderline, I think I used the term manipulative, like manipulative feeling, romantic string sections and orchestral moments, orchestral swells that they just come across as cheesy to me. Like they just come across as a sort of overdone trope. They don't feel appropriate, uh, or they don't feel like they fit in with the world. They feel like okay, we got to put some emotional music here because this is an emotional moment. Like go pick the emotional music from the list of tracks, right? Rather than as a sort of natural extension of the kind of world that Frieden is set in. I think unique music choices are something that can absolutely push a show over the edge into being extremely memorable. I think it's a big reason why Lane is so well liked still to this day. Is the Lane has music that you don't hear anywhere else, and it has so much music. Lane is like fucking short and mostly silent, and yet there are 3 CDs of music from the Lane anime. Uh, like I think the quality of music is something that people overlook a lot of the time. I kind of wish that this was more like how they used to make anime, where if you had a big shonen series like this, it would just be one season, and that was the whole thing, and it was 200 episodes, right? Rather than like, okay, we dump 20 episodes here, and then we wait a year, and then we dump it like the Hiroaka style. I don't really like that style so much because I would have forgotten what the fuck happened by the time I get back to watching it. I want to wait till it's finished to just marathon the whole thing. Um, I don't know. I don't know if I have anything else to say about the show. It definitely feels like a big shift between when they get to this town and they have to take an exam, right? This feels extremely Hunter x Hunter to me. It feels very Togashi to me. Um, it feels very shonen in general. Like it's not just yeah. And I sort of didn't realize I was watching a shonen anime well, until that point. Um, or I guess I don't know what the fuck. It's probably classified as seinen if we're being real, right? Let me check. Uh, probably says somewhere on here. Whatever, I don't care. Um, there's something also I want to talk about, which is production quality in general, animation quality, art quality. Uh, so I'd say Frieren has good production quality throughout, definitely above average, even for this type of show, even for a. It's clearly a sort of high budget show, even though actually, whether or not it's budget or time or manpower, it's a bit complicated in the anime industry. But let's call it a high budget show or high production value show. I think for a lot of people, the fact that the fights have a lot of frames in them, you know, there's a scene where Stark, who's like a warrior character, he's got a big axe. He takes down a dragon. He like kills a dragon, right? And like that scene is very like well animated. There are lots of frames. There's like moving backgrounds that are drawn in 2D. Like lots of really complex animation. I think a lot of people are gonna see that and be like, "Damn, that's so fucking cool." For me, like I really don't give a shit. How much animation frames you can put into your show is basically a function of behind the scenes negotiating shit with production committees that I don't really give a shit about. Like it has nothing to do with the show itself. When I see really impressive animation like that, all I think is, "Oh, you hired a guy who was good at that." Right? Like I don't know, I could probably see who it was. I bet there was just a guy who did that scene. Like all I can think is like, okay, so you got lucky and you got a bunch of money to make this show. But you give any show a bunch of money and it's gonna look better. Like it's you know what I mean? Like, okay, the source material was popular, so you managed to convince the production committee in a meeting to give you a bunch of money. That's all I think. I don't end up thinking like uh I don't know, because like half the time I spend reading fucking visual novels, which have zero animation to begin with. Like animation quality doesn't really. It's all about writing for me. Although obviously it can definitely make a show worse if the animation is really bad, and it can make a show better if the animation is really good. You can never make a bad show good by having good animation, and you can never make a good show bad by having bad animation. It's fundamentally about the quality of the writing and the animation is just a sort of cherry on top that can enhance or take away from a show that's already good or bad. Uh, so yeah, Frieren, if we look at, does it deserve to be the number one highest rated anime of all time? Absolutely fucking not. I don't know. This is a delusional take. Now, according to Dotesmate, who has read the manga, um, the manga. This is like the worst part of the manga. The manga like gets way better later on. Um, and so maybe we'll see then. Maybe we'll see then. Maybe that part of the show will deserve to be the number one highest rated thing ever. But this definitely is not even close because it doesn't have like if we take a look at shows that I think I'm not necessarily my personal favorites. Like I would never expect Hidamari's Sketch to be the number one highest rated show of all time because there's stuff in that show that uh, only I would give a shit about, or people with similar experiences to me would give a shit about. You're never gonna have your normie friend sitting down and talking about how is so cute. Like gushing over Nazuna. That's not gonna happen, and I get it, and that's fine. The sort of shows that I would expect to be the highest rated of all time are like maybe something like Evangelion, maybe something like like does let me be clear here. Would I be surprised to learn that Frieren was in the top 100 most highly rated shows of all time? Absolutely fucking not. It is exactly that kind of show. It's weird that it is the number one because there was like if you look at the other shows that are in the top of the top, we got Hunter x Hunter 2011. Definitely way better than Frieren. Like, it's not even close. I'm sorry, it's not even fucking close. If it didn't have the Chimera Ant arc, I could understand them being placed on a level playing field. But the Chimera Ant arc is like some of the best shit ever made ever in anything. I mean, come on. That like I wouldn't be surprised if I opened up an anime website and saw that Hunter x Hunter was the best rated show of all time. I'd be like, "Yep, that makes sense. It has both the broad appeal and also the shonen aspect, and also it's like fucking deeper than that. It's got the artistic aspect. It's got something to say, you know? Like that wouldn't surprise me. Um, I don't understand why the fuck this random Kaguya-sama thing is up here. That show fucking sucks. Like Vinland Saga. I would understand Vinland Saga being up there. It's a big, deep, fucking seinen series about like I don't really know much about it, but I think it's about like battles and tribal conflicts and personal struggles and loss and that sort of thing. Fucking Legend of the Galactic Heroes. That makes sense why that would be like any of these shows I could see being the number one show of all time. Koe no Katachi, that shit does not deserve to be the number one, but it's sentimental enough that it will make normies cry, and normies don't have the capacity to understand that like crying does not equal necessarily the best show ever. Um, maybe Mob Psycho 100. I would understand that being the best thing ever for a lot of people. Clannad After Story. I would understand that being the best thing ever for a lot of people. Like there's a lot of stuff here. Even Mushishi, like that. You know, there's a lot of stuff in the top 100 that I feel like would be way more fitting as the best anime of all time. Like Frieren is a great show, but it's I don't know, and it's a great show that I could definitely understand why it has the sort of broad appeal that it has. Um, but it seems like a very bizarre and arbitrary choice to be ranked as highly as it is. And I don't really understand it, to be real with you. I just it's not even the best. Like we were talking about, me and Dotsmate were talking about like the best anime. Okay, well maybe it's not the best anime of all time, but maybe it's the best of the past 5 years. But like Azoken came out in the past 5 years. Like Azoken, it's not even close. Like me and Dotsmate were both in agreement. Azoken clears Frieren. Like it's not even close. Azoken is so much better than Frieren. It's not even like you can't even compare the two things. It's on a different level, you know. Uh, so kind of a bizarre thing. I definitely don't regret watching it. It seems like such a weird show to be rate. Like I don't really understand. It's kind of doesn't make any sense to me. Um, Also weird that Bocce the Rock is ranked so highly. Like that show's good, but like I need to explain to people that like something can be good without being the best of all time, you know? I don't know. It's hard to explain. Ping Pong the animation, that has a better like deservingness of that has a stronger that more strongly deserves to be the most highly rated show of all time. You know what I mean? I'm not surprised that my favorites aren't in the top 100. Those are shows that are personal to me. You look at Hida Sketch, you look at Tamayura, you look at fucking Kamichu, you look at Mahoraba, you look at fucking Take You, you look at Horizon in the Middle of Nowhere, you look at Denkin Sankyu Magical Pokan. These are shows that are personal to me. They're not just shows that are really well executed and good, but they also speak to me personally on a deeper level. So it's like I wouldn't expect any of those to make it into the top 100 anime of all time. You know, I think No Game No Life does, and that's fine. That's cool. That's chill. That's a great show. I'm happy to hear it. Uh, but me, this is where I'm going to end this video. The thing about it is me, I am like Frieren. I am like Frieren in the sense that Frieren goes around collecting obscure magic that isn't doesn't seem particularly interesting to most of the people around her. You know, like she is very excited to learn. a spell that cleans clothes, just random obscure magic that doesn't seem interesting to anyone except her. And most of the time, it's nothing particularly useful or important, but it's meaningful for her in part because of the act of collecting it itself. That's me for anime. I am interested in going around collecting random shows that no one else cares about because I feel like no one else is going to do it. And I feel like it's my duty on this earth is to find the shows that are underappreciated, find the shows that were meaningful to some otaku at some point back in the day, to find the shows that have slid under the radar because they couldn't get their production committee to give them a bunch of money, and so they look like shit. But they have something to them. They have some little spark of genius, and that's what I live for. And so in that sense, I'm kind of like Frieren. Uh, and this video, I think, will be the first episode in a series of watching popular anime, watching the well critically acclaimed anime that I haven't seen. We started with the number one highest rated show of all time, so presumably it's all downhill from here. Because there's a lot of these popular shows that I haven't seen, or well liked shows that I haven't seen. Like I haven't seen Monster, for example. Maybe that'll be the next episode. I don't know. Um, well, hey, that's what this is. And thanks for watching.